Hello, everybody. Welcome today to our discussion on Analytics 3.0. My name is Andrew Fletcher, and I'll be your host today for the next 30 minutes. A couple of housekeeping items. The question button, should you have any during the session, should be located at the top of your screen. I hope to be able to answer everyone's questions today, but as you may hear, and I want to apologize for the background noise, I'm sitting in an airport waiting for my flight to board shortly. So if I don't get to all of your questions individually today, I will respond to you via email in the next day or two after my customer meeting in Chicago, where I'm headed today. So Analytics 3.0, what does that mean? It's a coin that was, or a term that was coined by Thomas Davenport, who's Distinguished Professor of IT at Babson College and also the co-founder of the International Institute of Analytics. So some of what we'll talk about today is based on his work, as well as I'll be covering a lot of information based on my experience through working in this industry, both as a business owner and as a consumer of BI and as an IT consultant over the past 25 years. So my work life has included stints as Microsoft Partner of the Year. I was a service line lead at Oracle in their business intelligence. It includes Teradata, Qlik, Brio, Cognos, Universe and Unidata databases, ecosystems. So it's anecdotal, but it's also, I think, we'll have some facts and figures today. So let's get started. I found this photograph, and I put it in here because I think we shouldn't forget why we do what we do. Our goal is to improve efficiencies, to increase sales, and to delight our customers. And it's really all about getting our customers to buy things. So, I remember in my early days, I went to our bookkeeper in the family-owned business that I was running at the time, and she said, if it weren't for those sales reps, we could get our work done. And I think that is an attitude that still prevails today in a lot of organizations. But the key, business intelligence and analytics is all about understanding our business and delivering those key bits of information to the right people at the right time so that they have the ability. I'm sorry, I thought I was in an area that wasn't going to be quite so loud. So the goal is to run a more profitable business. And that's where, and I think why we're in this. We love data, but it's really more than about data, and that's what we'll talk about today. So if you're not aware that we're in this brave new world, I would be surprised that you're on the call today. Look around. Connectivity is everywhere. I'm able to present from an airport wirelessly, to a virtual audience. Connectivity is everywhere, and the connectivity itself is generating the data. Your car, your phones, your heart rate monitors, the cameras that we're watching me today walk through the security line. And a big change as we get towards Analytics 3.0, and we've talked about it, is that no longer today is it just the individual that's required to generate the data, to input the information into a spreadsheet, to make a purchase and generate a point-of-sale instance. Today, the machines are generating and consuming their own data. One example of this for companies who are taking advantage is a 120-year-old General Electric. So they're spending time in analytics, and they've spent a significant amount of investment in what I'll call things that spin. So GE has sensors today streaming data from their turbines, their locomotives, their jet engines, and anything that spins, And today they're generating 7 times the data that Twitter generates on a daily basis. So as we'll talk about later, it's no longer about can I get access to the data. It's really about what do I do with all this data that I have. So a brief idea of Business and Decision. That's the company I work with today. We are a customer experience consulting firm delivering IT services to customers throughout the world. And the goal is to have happy customers and allow them to focus on what they do well, and that's driving their business, driving efficiencies, improving their products and their customer experience. And we'll talk more about B&E at the end of the presentation. So Analytics 1.0. You know, looking back at this time period, it almost seems prehistoric. I suppose that it really is, though, because in my early days, someone told me that 1 year of IT is comparable to, you know, dog years, seven dog years, because the technology moves so fast, and Moore's law is at work here. So when we think back to Analytics 1.0, it was really the real beginning of being able to truly analyze, probably outside of the enterprise, the company's data about production, sales, customer interaction. You know, analytics was now available for the small business and the mid-sized business who, you know, was on the desktop. My first analytical experience was what I might call pre-analytics. At the time, I was running a $50 million family-owned business, and it was paper-based. We would fill out the forms, we'd hand them in, we'd use our adding machines and calculate and you know, our 10 keys, and that's how we ran the business. I was at the time using a pencil with a big eraser and a 12-column ledger paper to analyze, you know, what were sales last month, how did it compare to this month, do a calculation to find out what my gross margin was, what I was doing right, what I wasn't doing. So we were capturing historical data, but it was all paper-based. So at some point in time during that, Lotus 1, 2, 3, the Apple, 64 came out. So I thought I died and gone to heaven at that point. We then graduated to the holy wars of Kimball or Inman, and relational tools like Brio and Cognos and Business Objects. So what took massive processing power that only the large organizations could handle, and punch cards and those types of things, now was available on the desktop. The issue, though, it still took a lot of time to gather the data. The data probably was still in paper-based form. So gathering the right data, getting it into the right format, preparing it, took more time analyzing the data. And it still does in many organizations, right? I've come to a lot. I was speaking to a group of CFOs, and they're doing customer surveys, and he says, I've got the stack of paper, but I don't know what to do with it. So there are still a lot of organizations somewhere along the maturity curve, and some are still living in Analytics 1.0 or pre-1.0. As you know, this is a tremendous advance from the big 12-column ledger. Subject areas, cube to cube go through, and I apologize. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I thought I was in a quiet spot, but evidently not. So, in 2001, when I was at Oracle, we began a 4 terabyte proof of concept for a very large customer. At that time I was told I was crazy. But maybe, and maybe I was. Good news is the proof of concept went well, but interestingly enough, when I reached out to the Oracle product managers, they told me they were too busy to help because they were working on a 15 petabyte project for the military. So as early as 2001, big data had arrived.
Folks, have any questions, feel free to ask the things we go and line up. Please remember the numerical order.
So big data, what are we talking about? And I look at this graphic, and I really think that terabytes is probably too small of a word. This week I purchased a 4 terabyte hard drive. So the fact that I could have terabytes of data in my home for just my family photos and music and my kids' photos, is once inconceivable. So we look at volume. We have the information. We look at velocity. We need the answers now. We need to understand what's happening right now. And the variety. So now we begin to add in the unstructured, the semi-structured. So it's not just enough to have structured data. And that's, many of you have seen this. That's the 3 V's of what, how do we define big data today? Some talk about 4 V's, but for purposes of this, we'll stick with 3. So Analytics 2.0, the internet comes of age. The systems become so big, the amount of data becomes so big that the devices that we have aren't capable of handling it. So enter Hadoop and a federation of Hadoop servers. Companies like Amazon, Google, eBay, LinkedIn, suddenly they're offering suggestions, books you might like to read, friends you might like to connect with. People who purchase that also purchase this. So big data had arrived, although yet not coined as a working definition, it was the new reality. We had solved the data acquisition problem, and now we begin integrating data from external sources. In addition, we've got the entry of visual analytics. The cloud's a reality, and unstructured data requires a new breed of database. So suddenly we're seeing in-memory, columnar, in-database analytics, machine learning, predictive analytics, data scientists. This begins the era where data really moves from the back office to the front office in the boardroom. Companies are now making decisions based on data. And it goes from what we were doing to predictive analytics. If I put scarves on sale and they're next to belts, what might happen to the sale of belts? We're beginning to see really a fun area in terms of analytics. So now that we've got data in the boardroom, let's talk about Analytics 3.0. So 3.0 is really analytics rooted in enormous amounts of data. It's embedded into every type of device, the ability to embed analytics and optimization into every business decision. So machine learning begins to tell customers what they need, when to slow down, when to change lanes, when to run faster, when to eat less, when to eat more. We're now at a time for prescriptive analytics. And some might question who's behind the algorithms that are making that prescription. Is that the right kind of diet for me because I have food allergies? Is that too warm or too cold for me in the house based on, I've got the flu or something along those lines? So along with prescriptive analytics, it comes with its challenges. But suddenly we're beginning to see, and again, machines are generating the data themselves, analyzing their own data, and making recommendations and prescribing solutions to the consumers. So if your company produces goods and services, they work with customers, with vendors, with partners, if they're consuming raw materials or finished goods, if they sell things, you now have data on all of those activities. They're tracking shipments. We know where they are. I can tell them to change where the shipment needs to be delivered. So we're living in an area today where it's really no longer a problem of data acquisition. It's a matter of we have too much data. So where do we begin? Small data, large data, structured data, unstructured data, internal data sources, external data sources. Yes, we have prescriptive analytics, but we also have the historical, descriptive, and predictive analytics. So we're now using all three kinds of analytics. We're using all of data sources, whether it's a data mart, an enterprise data warehouse, NoSQL, spatial analytics. So moving data from the staging to the evaluation of the data quality through the exploration of the data and into production. That's requiring a new era and a new level of data management, and that's the Analytics 3.0. So we're finding agile methodologies isn't fast enough. So what was, and you know, talk about agile, there's a lot of companies that's a foreign term to them. But there are even more companies like the GEs of the world and the Procter & Gambles of the world who today are running, instead of simple algorithms on data sets, they might be running 5,000 scenarios at once to trying to determine where they are. So agile is not fast enough. So the key here is let's pull small data sets together. Let's analyze the small data set. Because we have too much data to really churn through to find the answers, and let's explore that. Data warehouses are too slow, hence the in-memory and other things. So one of the big keys here is that now data analysis and the understanding of data should not be just an IT exercise. It needs to be in collaboration, along with the agile view of the world. We present a small set of data to the business users, to the marketing departments. Is this what you want to see it? Is this how you want to see it? And so we begin to collaborate on looking for those answers. It's on an industrial scale. And really, more often than not, it requires a cultural change within the organization. To be that agile, to have the business users involved, they have to understand a little bit about data modeling and what's capable and what's possible. And the IT has to understand the business, and that's really why I began with that first slide. It is, after all about what the business is needing. So the business and IT work together. So when I talk with a number of organizations, if it's left to IT to figure out, the project is doomed for failure. So if a CEO wants this taken care of, he cannot delegate it only to IT. There must be business users involved, and it must have sponsorship from the business organization. So, what now? Why? What does this mean? What does it mean for you and for your organization? Not only do we know what happened now, we know what might happen. And, in fact, we're being told what to do about it. Cars breaking by themselves. How do we use all this new information that we've gathered, not only from our internal system, social sentiment, social media, what a lot of people might refer to as digital smoke signals. So we've got this information. What do we do with it, and how do we use it to move the needle? Number of sources. You know, we're inundated. We have little time to turn the information into insight. Do we respond to all the smoke signals that we're getting? Do we knee-jerk reaction to how the market is affecting or information that we're gathering from our Twitter feeds or from our Facebook pages, from our sales, from weather maps saying, you know, we were really smart because we put snow shovels on sale because we saw a snowstorm coming in. What kind of guidelines do we need to put into place to be able to respond to the information that's now coming our way? As I talk about with customers again and again is, this is great. You've got the data. You know what to do with it. What are you doing with it to move the needle? To increase sales, to improve efficiency, to make happier customers. So I would challenge each of you to ask, how is your company moving the needle? What are they doing? How are you leveraging your data assets, your analytics, to change the way you do business, to find more of your best customers, perhaps to sell more of your most profitable products, or to develop new products that fill gaps identified by your data analysis. Some have termed the phrase data exhaust. It's now being used to describe the excess data that was previously being generated, but not captured and certainly not analyzed. We have a customer today whom we're working with that generates over 40,000 new business leads every month. Unfortunately, of those leads, only 2% are qualified candidates for the product that they have to offer the market today. Previously, the leads that weren't qualified were discarded, tossed out. They did not have the bandwidth, the tools, the mechanisms to do anything with the, again, what we call data exhaust, the extra data, so they just discarded it. So what are we doing today? We're now sifting through that exhaust, those customers that were heretofore not qualified, because it's no longer being discarded. And we're looking for new product opportunities within those. So what's 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees away from the company's core business? Perhaps even just selling these excess leads to other companies, or building an alliance with another company, or partnering with someone to say, this isn't my core business, but I have these leads, and we'll work together to develop a new product. The niche. They called me for a reason. So when we think about this, the equation today, I believe, looks something like this. 10% of our effort is really around data acquisition. Yes, there are projects because electronic data interfaces the handshakes might not be perfect, but there are standards, and we can figure that one out. 80% of the equation is data analytics. What does the data mean? Where are the jewels and the nuggets that we can find to be able to really do something with the data? But it's that last mile, and really the most difficult piece is taking that information, taking that data, and understanding what we should do with it. What are people willing to buy? What is it we have to offer? Who is our most profitable customers? So taking that information, wrapping a marketing engine around our analytics, conducting small tests of our offerings and our products, test our products, test our pricing, test our messaging, feeding the results of those tests back into our system. So we've got a closed loop system that allows us to analyze further which coupons work the best. What were the results of the trade shows that we decided to attend? What was our ROI on that? Did we achieve the desired result? What was our messaging at that trade show? The sale event that we held? The coupon that we distributed? So we test the findings in small samples to prove out how we can further move the needle. So it's not enough to get to the 90%, and that's where many companies are today, to have acquired the data, to have analyzed the data. It's that last mile. It's selling more goods and more services. It's increasing margin. It's getting the goods and services to market sooner. It's being able to reprice my items in minutes and not days. It's about making the sale. So I hope you found this to be of interest, informational, enlightening, and hopefully you can take this information back to your organizations and really challenge your people to say, I work in this area, I help produce this data, but what are we doing with the data to really move the needle? Let me tell you a little bit about Business and Decision. We are a solution integration and consulting firm with over 2,500 employees. We're located in 15 countries throughout the world, 35 cities, with 3 offices in North America. So we spend our days helping companies work through these issues throughout the whole equation that I mentioned, from data acquisition through all the way through data analytics and through kind of the marketing and analysis. So it's an area that we live in every day and are happy to have further discussions to help you understand and move along that path. Some of the key relationships that we have through our ERP practice or our business analytics practice or our marketing practices. So we are working with a number of vendors because we are a full life cycle organization. It's not about just analyzing the data. It's not about just acquiring the data. It's not about just point of sale entry. It's being able to walk you through an entire life cycle. And with that, I appreciate your patience today. You'll also note at the top, if you have any comments, questions, let me know. If you like the webcast, there's also a place to vote. It gives me feedback on the content, the quality of the delivery. And again, I do want to apologize. I had not planned on being in an airport today. So any audio problems that there were, you'll have to excuse, and hopefully you already have because we're at the end of the webcast. So with that, I've got to run. I appreciate it. I will follow up with the questions that we received, and I wish everybody a great week and good data. Thanks. Bye.
This will serve as the final boarding call for Southwest Airlines Flight 1029 at 10:40 on time departure to Chicago.